Greetings there, this is Essence40 and today we are going to do something a little different. Whilst I have thought and even talked about doing my usual style of critique but of published written media not hosted online, I have sort of put it off. Today, however, is different. Please welcome the Eternal Challenge, a journey through the miraculous Qur'an so thoughtfully put together by OneReason. If you did not know, OneReason is the publishing branch of the Islamic Education and Research Academy, also known as iERRA, whilst the London Dawah movement and now Mission Dawah are the video apologetics side. OneReason is the physical media side, printing CDs, booklets, you name it. These are items designed to be distributed in a similar fashion to chick tracts, i.e. believers order some and then hand them out among their friends who they are trying to convert. OneReason was actually the first interaction I had with iERA at my college, Farnborough College of Technology. When I was attending, a new faith society was started up, solely run by two Muslims who covered their table at the biannual society fair with Islamic propaganda. In particular, they were pushing the piece titled "The Man in the Red Underpants," which I took away and scrutinized in my own time, going so far as to upload some notes I had made on the booklet to my personal Facebook profile. So I attended the society upon request. It had one meeting and then seemed to collapse into nothing. I'm pretty sure it had to do with the two people running it and their complete overestimation on how great the arguments they learnt were. So they didn't stop there though. They called in reinforcements. One lunch just outside the canteen, there were two Muslim apologists from iERA hanging out with them. The apologists were asking pretty basic questions and getting rather flustered at my responses, as well as the responses from my friends. It's looking back now that I realise that Hamza may have been one of those individuals, and I may have actually met him some time before I called out his lying to students at the University of Surrey. I would ask him, but I doubt I'd get a response, as he seems to still be hiding from me after he called me out to defend myself in public in the form of a debate, and I agreed so long as he defended himself and we do it in a neutral venue, so not the iERA officers he wanted. I even went ahead and secured us a venue in London, so they had no excuse considering that is where their officers are. I just wanted somewhere where neither of us are in control of the venue, so I'm not at a lesser footing. Fact is, I still wish I had my physical copy of The Man in the Red Underpants to show you guys, as I've begun developing some attachments to my work around iERA. On my Christian front, I cycle through so many people, yet on the front of Islamism, iERA has always been constant. So anyway, what are my thoughts on the actual book first glance? Well, the pattern is lovely. I absolutely adore the pattern. But the book was displayed as a hardback online, and not simply in one place, but many, when really it's a soft cover. And this actually made it look much thicker online, and I was expecting a juicy book to really sink my teeth into, when it's really just made up of 128 pages, many of them blank. Thankfully, the chapters are pretty well divided, so I'll tackle however many is feasible in each video. So, with all that said, let us begin to look at what is inside the Eternal Challenge, a journey through the miraculous Qur'an. The last century has witnessed a surge in literature about the Qur'an in many languages, written by Muslims and non-Muslims alike. More often than not, such works focus on a single topic or are directed at a scholarly audience. Well, yes, that's sort of the definition of literature, a text that is above standard. If, however, you simply mean literature in the general sense of what is written, then I must disagree entirely. There is a plethora of literature online that is designed to be accessible by anyone wishing to know more on the topic. Now, in my personal experience, whilst the work of Dawah apologists such as those at iERA is targeted at laymen, it has remained far more cryptic than the opposition. This appears to be a technique utilized to offer a false air of supremacy and legitimacy to the claims of mysticism and make it difficult to check what has been said, as the answers are oftentimes written in obscure journal articles aged 10, even 20 years of age. I am glad to hear that you, unlike, say, Hamza Sortius, will not resort to these cryptic forms of dishonesty in asserting that your source says one thing when in reality it says another. I wrote this book because there was a need for a comprehensive and up-to-date work about the Qur'an for people of all faiths and none. I avoided an academic style in order to make this book accessible to everyone. No prior knowledge of the Qur'an or Islam is needed for this book. I want to give the readers an insight into why the Qur'an has captivated the hearts and minds of over 1.5 billion Muslims around the world, including my own. Please note that it's not possible for one book to cover every nuance of the Qur'an, nor is it possible to address every contention. Such a scope would require volumes. I therefore encourage readers to reflect on the points this book raises and also undertake their own further research. My sincere hope is that this book serves as a valuable companion for those setting out on the stimulating journey to discover the message of the Qur'an, a message that extends to everyone who is prepared to listen to what it has to say. Well, if you cannot respond to every objection to every topic, or even every topic, would it not be better to concentrate down on one topic and go the full mile? One irrefutable argument will always be stronger than 10, 20, 100, 1,000, a million easily refutable arguments. To me, this seems to be taking the route of spray and pray, rather ironically, in hopes that some small piece will trigger some emotional response inside me to enact a conversion. Why not precise? Why not a clinical strike like that of a sharpshooter, like, for example, the genetic mapping in evolution, which completely demolishes creationism? This makes little sense to me. We value any feedback that you might have. As such, we have set up an online resource to provide updates to the book and also address any questions we receive from readers. The website. Also, as this is the first book of its kind, there is a possibility of errors. If readers do happen to come across any errors, then we kindly request that you please notify us, email, so that they can be corrected in a future edition. Well, you should certainly receive my feedback throughout the course of the series. Now, being a series on a published book not readily accessible on YouTube, I am typically a little cautious about copyright claims. However, I must note that the PDF version of this book is readily available on their website for free. I am therefore not damaging any sales that they may have through the existence of this page-by-page review. I may cause damage in your sales in my critique, yet that is well within my legal rights of review. I am just clarifying this here and now so that there's no funny business down the line. The copyright statement made on the interior of your book is pretty much rendered void by fair use under the clauses of critique and review, unless you are capable of demonstrating financial harm resulting from my reading of this book. If you fail to do that, you lack any reasonable justification to make a copyright claim and to carry out to court. If you decide to do so, regardless, then you will very quickly find yourselves at the receiving end of the Streisand effect. Just letting you know ahead of schedule. Finally, I would like to thank those who have helped me along my journey of writing this book, which represents the culmination of decades of collective research. This book would simply not have been possible without the support of my family and the hard work of my peers who are too numerous to mention by name. I am especially grateful to Hamza Sorcius and Sabur Ahmed for entrusting me with writing a book of this importance. Well, if you've taken the advice of either Hamza Sorcius or Sabur Ahmed, then I get a sense that I'm in for a very bumpy ride. Hamza Sorcius rather notoriously flopped when trying to first ignore and then defend himself against my critique of his absolute bastardization of social science. I called him out online, in person, and then online again, yet he continues to propagate his lies about Olivera Petrovich and her yet unpublished research and Justin Al-Barrett's non-peer-reviewed book, which he clarified he never said what Hamza said he said. Hamza threw out a torrent of sources to try and distract me, not realizing that I would go through each one of his sources and demonstrate that he had clearly lied about reading them or simply lied about what they contained. As for Ahmed from what I've observed is the weakest of the Mission Dawah lot, which is saying something. He seems to be the fool guy when Imran Hussein, the other fool guy, refuses to do something. Suddenly this book seems much more daunting with the realization that both Hamza and Sabur have been involved. Oh well. Their contributions and encouragement have been invaluable. Most importantly, I am grateful to Allah for His help, without which nothing could have been done. I humbly pray to Him to accept this work as a service unto Him, and to forgive me for any unintentional mistakes. Abu Zakaria, manyprophets1message.com. So that was the preface. It's in the next chapter and the one after that which we really get going. So I feel best to stop here, perhaps having teased you slightly with the prospect of things to come. Now the following chapters in the book are: what is the Qur'an? What does it teach? What are its main themes? Belief in God Almighty, stories of the prophets and past nations, the hereafter, why believe in the Qur'an, the concept of God, preservation, relevancy, literary features, structure, accurate predictions about the future, reveals lost knowledge from history, cannot be imitated, impact on society, reflections on the signs of the Qur'an, who authored the Qur'an, some final thoughts, and of course references, which I will be going back and forth between throughout this book, so don't worry. So I look forward to going through this book with all of you and seeing for ourselves whether OneReason and iERROR has learned from their mistakes in the past, or if these claims made throughout the preface are simply hot air. Until then, take care and don't forget #EternalChallenge.